Thank you, Pramod. I hope I am audible. I was really very much interested to start my address addressing the five pillars of philosophy family. Dr. Pramod, Dr. Om Narayan, and Dr. Kailash. Unfortunately, two of the trio are absent today. However, I'm thankful to the organizers of the philosophy family to share the platform for ventilating my thoughts and reactions with one of the most ancient Indian wisdom, that is Ishopanishad of the Vajrasanai group of Shukla Yajurveda. First of all, I expressed my regard and friendly wishes to the viewers and listeners and the learning professors. While introducing, Pramod mentioned a wrong thing that I am expert in Upanishad. In fact, I am a learner of the Upanishad. My presentation is having the purpose that if I have not understood the Upanishad properly, the listeners can tell it at the end that this should be understood in this manner, or it can be understood better in this manner. So I will just place a point of view. We all know that Upanishad is such a topic on which several lectures are given by persons. So it is very difficult to present the messages of Upanishad within a stipulated time. Though it is a very small Upanishad, but its value is unparalleled or unmoved. It has influenced many in many manners. So how it has influenced me, that is my point of view, and I will present in this forum. I'm sure I cannot give full justice to the topic messages of Upanishad, but I can mention this thing that I have gathered many views and I have developed a view of mine, and like going up to the reality about the elephant, I will say that no one is fully correct and no one is fully wrong. Before I proceed to my talk, I will just mention few words regarding my journey with Upanishad. I had the name of Upanishad after 15 years of my teaching in colleges. For that, I didn't hear the name Upanishad. Upanishad was not there in our course during our study, and that there is some Upanishad like Upanishad, it was purely unknown to me till I completed 15 years of teaching career. When I was posted in NC College Jajpur, their honor students expressed their view that, sir, we are going to fail in one paper, all will secure zero. I asked why? Now, there is a paper Upanishad and none as doctors. We do not know anything. So we cannot write anything, we'll all get zero. As a teacher, it was a challenge for me that I will say that I do not know anything. So at that time, I inquired about what is it Upanishad, what is Upanishad, what is ancient Indian treasure. So it is it became such a wisdom, such a treasure that the moment I entered into it, I couldn't measure its depth, and I am still in with it. I still love it. In order to know about it, I tried to know the view of Acharyas. Acharya Shankara's view has been expressed by, mostly expressed by Gambhirananda, and also I have gone through some interpretations of Madhvacharya. Then I tried to know the view of Nanda group of thinkers like Swami Rangathananda, Swami Chinmayananda. I admire their interpretations and the very powerful writings. Then, for teaching purpose, had to read the interpretation of Radhakrishnan, and luckily I found his student, my teacher, Dr. Satyabadi Mishra's book, and thereafter I got another book of a Sanskrit scholar, Harmon Mishra, who happens to be my student, but a very good scholar on Sanskrit. So these three books of academicians helped me in preparing the notes for the students. Then I ventured to write something on it just to help my students to understand this Upanishad. The reason was what I found the writings of acharyas and even Ranganathananda and Chinmayananda are not so easy to understand for commoners, common students. Especially Acharya Shankara's view is very spiritualistic, and Madhavacharya's view is purely theist. Swami Ranganathananda and Chinmayananda's view is semi-spiritualist, and some theistic thoughts is also there. So it was difficult on my part to follow them for teaching purpose. Now we shall come to the main part of the talk, that what is the message of the Upanishad? Why it is so considered as so important Upanishad? Upanishad is so versatile in its presentation. Number of interpretations could be possible the verses of the Upanishad. The first verse itself is so important and so versatile that people have got different understandings out of it. The importance of the verse is not doubtable. Gandhi has once said about the verse that it is so important that if all the Indian treasure will be lost somewhere and the first verse of the Upanishad is in the memory of someone, then it is enough. Now we shall come to the first verse, how it is versatile. We know the first verse that Ishavashyam idam sarvam jat kintit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magrida kashachit dhanam. Regarding the first line of the verse, there is less controversy that Isha is involved in all the small or greater things of this world. But the second line is very important where it has been mentioned Tena Tektena Bundita Magrida Kashachit Dhanam. Tena Tektena Bhunjita. Bhunjita word has three meanings. From the word bhoj it has come and it has one meaning enjoy or to save or protect, another meaning eat or take. So taking the advantage of these three different meanings, scholars have presented different views regarding this verse.
Yeah,
Madhavacharya has said, hello, Madhavacharya has said that you eat whatever has been left over by the god, Taktena, left over, and Tena means Lord. So whatever has been left over by the god, left out by the god, that can be taken as prasad, and you that is one of the understandings given by Madhavacharya. Radha Krishnan has said that you can enjoy by renouncing those. Those means the belongings which you are you are possessing or with you. Chinmayananda has said that enjoy thereafter enjoy by renouncing. But he has mentioned clearly what is to be renounced. We have to renounce falsity. And what is to be enjoyed? The reality has to be enjoyed. You see how the interpretation differs from scholar to scholar. Swami Ranganathananda has said that by renunciation, support yourself. So by this, by renunciation, support yourself. So here he has understood the word bhundita as supporting the self. Now, what I have understood about this particular line that Tyago is the means by Tyago is the means for the self protection. So whatever belongings you one possesses, if he develops the attitude of donating it to others, those who are in need, then he will be fearless. He will have no fear for his existence, and he can protect himself from any kind of danger. This is one example how the first verse can be interpreted in a different manner. Now coming to the topic that what message Upanishad has imparted. I will first of all talk about the views of two important scholars regarding the message of the Upanishad. Then I will tell about my view. First one is Swami Chinmayananda. Chinmayananda's view is quite intellectual and also uh, interesting. Then I will come to the view of academician Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, who represents Indian philosophy academically, and then I will come to my view. So far as Swami, I'm sorry, I will be very little bit textual, and those who will not appreciate it doesn't matter, but it is my habit to become bit textual. So Swami Chinmayananda's view on Upanishad that Upanishad has developed seven waves. It is that sea where seven waves are rolling, and the seven waves can be visualized as different parts of our life. The first one is that realize God's glory, enjoy and renounce. Here he emphasized on the path of renunciation and also the path of meditation and the path of action. He has pointed out that normally people think that path of action is not compatible with the path of knowledge, but he has elaborated how the path of action is not contradictory to the path of knowledge. Now, third one, refusing above two paths to go to astray into abyss of pain and darkness. Asurja Nam Telokai, depending upon on the third verse, he says that those who refuse these two paths, they go to the world of darkness, means they embrace pain. And depending on the from fourth to eighth verse, he says that this way talks about what exactly is the goal of our life. So the goal of the life has been mentioned in the fourth wave, where he mentions that the proper knowledge of the first two verses will give the knowledge of the inner self. Then about the fifth wave, he says that ninth to 14th verse talk about the fifth wave where it is mentioning about knowledge and action, meditation and worship. Knowledge and action, meditation and worship are not to be followed independently. Those are to be taken as an integrated program and in a harmonious manner. So, knowledge, action, meditation, worship, all these are to be pursued in a harmonious way to achieve the truth. Then alone the truth will be visible. So, that the truth is inside the golden path and it is not visible, it is not open. He has said that truth can be visible to us if knowledge, action, meditation, worship can be pursued together. Then about the sixth wave of thought, he says that 15th to 17th verse talks about the wave of thought. And what thought? It is a call of the moral man to the glory of immortal self in himself to renewal itself the joy of self experience. So it is also very important way where the self realizes that he himself is the immortal self and he has to enjoy the self experience regarding his own self. And the last way, that is the last verse, 18th verse, he says that this uh, way talks about after explaining the highest goal, a teacher and taught. He said that in the Upanishad is Dharma, as we know that Upanishad stands for that. A teacher teaches something. So after knowing the highest goal, the teacher and taught pray the Supreme for guidance and help on the path of self-development. So you see how such a nice interpretation of the Upanishad has been given by Swami Chinmayananda, where he says that self-development is the primary goal of the being, and this can be achieved through a process. And Upanishad provides six waves to reach at the seventh wave. And this is how the message of the Upanishad has been presented by Swami Chinmayananda. Now I will come to Professor and academician Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan's view. I felt that such an erudite scholar has not found this Upanishad to be exceptional one, and very less uh, his view he has given on this Upanishad. Primarily, he has uh, accepted the view of Sankara or Sankara's line of thinking. However, uh, we shall see how what view he has given regarding the message of the Upanishad. Regarding the first verse, he says the Upanishad gives the message of the relationship between God and the world, being and becoming. He had pointed out a very interesting point regarding the first verse that Upanishad is not interested on the absolute Paramatman. Absolute or Brahman concept is not compatible with Upanishad. Rather, he says that Upanishad is focusing on absolute in relation with world and he is Parameshwar. Instead of Paramatman, he is Parameshwar. So he makes a distinction between the two concepts, Paramatman and Parameshwara, and uh, he says that the first verse is important to know about the relationship between God and the world. It is about the first line of the first verse. And about the second line, he says, life uh, in this world, life in divine spirit are not incompatible. Enjoy through renunciation and renunciation of what? Not belongings, rather renunciation of self-will. So worldly life and spiritual life are not incompatible. That is the message of the first verse according to him. The message of the second verse according to him is to stay with karma will keep away from wisdom. Only karma to be with ignorance. Activities are essential, but need to act without selfishness. One, that is the need to act without selfishness. So, karma is not incompatible with wisdom, but a special type of karma has to be performed, not like day to day works, and that is the karma without self interest. Now, the message from the message of the third uh, verse, he has separated it that it is denying the possibility of spirits. Having no knowledge about the self is as good as asura. So, a person, a being, cannot be treated as a spiritual being if he has no knowledge of the self. And in that sense, he says that he is as good as asura. So, it is as good as denial of the spirit. The message from fourth to eighth verse, he has taken five verses at a time. That is, supreme is both transcendent and immanent. The message imparted in these verses are that supreme is faster than mind, even though he is steady at its one place. So, in this represents his transcendence and immanent nature. Supreme can be near and far off, and the realization of supreme is the mark of the realization of ekatvam or oneness, and the God omniscient has allotted the duty to Prajapati to maintain this order. Now, the message of the ninth, 10th, and 11th verse, that is on Vidya and Avidya, he says, this Upanishad's message is we cannot grasp the nature of ultimate reality either by discursive knowledge or lack of it. So, he uh, has mentioned Shankara's view that Avidya is ceremonial piety, Vidya is knowledge of deities. And why he has accepted this, Shankara's view, that Shankara has mentioned that because there is the word about greater darkness, Vidya cannot refer to the knowledge of the Brahman. So, uh, Vidya refers to the knowledge of deities. And for him, he says, Radhakrishnan says that Avidya is essential prerequisite for the spiritual life. Now, regarding 12th, 13th, and 14th verses, the message is those who worship Hiranyagarbha, they obtain supernatural power. Those who worship Prakriti, they get absorbed into it. Definitely a new type of understanding that those who worship Hiranyagarbha unmanifest, they obtain supernatural power. And those who worship Prakriti, they get absorbed into it. And the rest four verses are not so much important for him. He has just mentioned that it is a prayer uh, there is prayer in these four verses. So, if we summarize his views, then we find there are three important messages regarding Upanishad. The first one is there is essential unity between God and world, being and becoming. This is one message. Second message is life in the world or worldly life and spiritual life or life with divine spirit are not incompatible. And the third message is we cannot have contemplative life without activities, act without selfishness, help without patronizing. These three are most important messages imparted by Upanishad, and we cannot deny that these are the messages of the Upanishad, but one may point out that these are not sufficient, rather, some more messages can be possible out of the Upanishad. Now, what about my own understanding about this Upanishad message? In general, if I would like to speak about one view regarding the sole message of the Upanishad, then I will say that the Upanishad message is to provide ideal and peaceful living to a common human being. So, the sole aim of the Upanishad, I want to say that how a common human being can live a peaceful life that can be learned from the Upanishad. The seer, the writer of the composer of the Upanishad has this aim in his mind, I will say. So why I say that this? Because we find all the requisites of peaceful living, social living from this Upanishad. So for that, first of all, I have made a list of what is required for a peaceful social living, or what are the things are required. In my understanding, in the present the world, safety is the first important factor to live safely. Second, to live without sorrow, without greed, without moho. I- To live without ignorance, that means with some knowledge. And what is that? The knowledge of truth. Maybe the truth considered as reality. And the last requisite of peaceful living that one should proceed in the proper path till the end of his life. Right path till the end of his life. So these are the requisites of peaceful living. So
Pankaj,
we have to examine whether these things are there in the Upanishad or not. So in order to examine whether these are the things available in the Upanishad or not, we have to see what has been said in the Upanishad. We have read number of interpretations, number of explanations, pages in pages, but I have found only one page what has been said in the Upanishad, which I will now present before you, that these are the things said in the Upanishad, verse wise. In the first verse, what has been said in the Upanishad, I am saying it will take only 3 to 4 minutes. Ishvara is the owner of all those you find in this world. Giving up the attitude of the accumulation will protect yourself. You protect yourself by renouncing what you possess. I have said earlier that I am in a learning stage. So if I have not understood the verse properly, please let me know it at the end of the talk. Second verse. Performing the usual day-to-day activities, the desire to live about 100 years will be of no utility at the end. The verses from 3rd to 8, remaining without the knowledge of the self is demonic by nature. In the bracket, the real remaining in its one place outstrips all those who move, how fast they may be. Fifth, it is nearest and far off, within all and outside of all. Sixth, knowing that the same dwell with others, hating others is not possible. This knowledge of oneness will dispel all sorts of sorrow. Eighth, reality is not physical, all pervading and eternal. Now, verses 9 to 11. Ignorance is as good as remaining in dark. So called Vidya is still darker. The result of both are different. Avidya invites rebirth, and Vidya proper leads to eternity. 12th to 14. The worship of manifested will not help in getting liberation. Without proper understanding, worship of unmanifest or Hiranyagarbha is not better. Search after truth is needed in lieu of both. Now, 15 and 16. Truth is not available openly or easily. It requires proper understanding through some knowledgeable one. The reality is non different from the self. He is in the form of Purusha. He is the being itself. Now, 17th and 18th. The last phase of life has approached. It is time to remember the good works done in the past. If not, then offer prayer to Lord to guide you in the right path in the rest of your life. Swami Chinmayananda has mentioned 7 ways. Professor Radhakrishnan has mentioned in 8 phases. I have found 6 important lessons or messages in the Upanishad in this following 6 manner. The first one is its metaphysical and ethical message in the first verse, that is about the relation between creator and creation, the supreme, the transcendence and immanent nature of the supreme, and protection through tyaga. Second message of the second verse, that is regarding action. Action is action with wisdom is essential. Only action may be misdirected, may misdirect us. Then third to eighth verse talks about Atmajnana, oneness of the self, and in these verses, the most important message for the society, how to live without sorrow, without hatred, and how to proceed with universal brotherhood. So, the secret of social peace are there from third to eighth verses. Then, from 9 to 14 verses, it talks about the rebirth and eternity. Liberation is possible by the help of proper knowledge and also by knowing the real truth. Worship cannot help in getting liberation. And 15th and 16th verses, though difficult, the ultimate truth can be known. It is difficult to know, but the ultimate truth can be known. It is non different from the self. Soham Asmi. Now, the last 17th and 18th verses make these two verses make assessment of the past life and pray God for the future guidance. So, I want to conclude by saying what is the final message of the uh, Upanishad. Just like uh, I have summarized Radhakrishn's view in 3 points, similarly, I want to summarize my understanding of Upanishad in 4 points. First one is the message of Upanishad is not the message delivered by divine. It is, we can take the divinity aspect of the message, but we cannot claim that it is the divine message given to us. It is not Apureshaya in that sense. The message is meant for common man. The message is not for selected few. Vedanta Vidya is Brahma Vidya, and commoners are not allowed to know it, incapable to understand it. This is not at all appropriate in case of Ishopanishad. So I strictly reject that view that Vedanta Vidya or Brahma Vidya or Ishopanishadic Vidya is only for selected few. It is for common man and common man's ideal living. The sole aim is to provide guidelines for an ideal living. And why I say this? Because the Upanishad had given scope for a person for self evaluation at the end of his life. He has to think what he has done. Kratasmara Krutasmara. So the Upanishad has not emphasized on Brahman realization. He has realized, it has emphasized on oneness of the soul, which will give up the hatred and bring joy for the life. And there is no emphasis on otherworldly life so far as the concept of liberation is concerned. Now, the third one, that the Upanishad spreads the message of universal brotherhood. This is also the point which Gandhi has mentioned in his talk. One of his talks in which has been mentioned in Harijan, that the basic understanding of Vidya and Avidya, Sambhuti and Asambhuti will help in searching after the truth, and the Atmagana will help in practicing universal brotherhood. And the last one is that those who criticize that it is Upanishad, Upanishads are only good composition of poetry, I strongly object it. It is found in the form of poem, but it cannot be said that these are useless poems, or simply it has literary value. It doesn't have philosophical understanding. Now, Upanishad messages are never otherworldly. And when I say this, I have I'm interested to mention why it is not otherworldly, why it is not obscure. People criticize that Upanishadic philosophy is obscure. It is indirect but not obscure. Let us see if if we get any obscurity in it. Uh, it has been mentioned in Sanskrit language, but I have translated to Odia language 3 verses. First one, uh, four actually. The first two and last two. First two and last two 4 verses are purely meant for the common nurse, and others may are philosophical important. ईशा छाई सबुरी भितरे जा किछि अछि ए संसार भितरे पर धन ठारू लोभ देई छाड़ी त्याग पथे हुए सबु शिखी लिभि जीवन शेखा मिशिब आकाशे 17 वर्ष ए देह पाउंस हेब जली जुई परे मनरते मन पका एई अवसरे करिछि स्वीकृत जेते जीवन भितरे 18 वर्ष सबु तो तुमको जना आहे अग्नि देव ए जीवने करिथिबा कर्म जेते मो पाप सबको निवारी देव सुपथ देखाओ गुहारी करुचि तोते. If these are the contents of the verses, can we say that these are otherworldly, unsocial, have no social relevance? I think they are utterly wrong in maintaining such a view. Now, let me end my talk with the invocation of the Upanishad. Sahana bhavatu, sahana bhunaktu, sahavirjam karvavahe. Tejasvina vidhitavastu. In English, together we move, I add, with the ethics of the Ishopanishad, Sahana bhunaktu. Together we enjoy the message of Ishopanishad. Sahavirjam karvavahe. Let us perform together vigorously the ideal of Ishopanishad, that is selfless activities. Tejasvina vaditamastu ma vidyashabhahe. Let there be no hostility. Let the non-hatred message on of Upanishad pervades everywhere. The craft quality is major problem of social unrest. If it is stopped, social peace, peaceful living, just society, all will be at our hand through Upanishad. Thanking you all. Hand over to
Very nice presentation, sir. We learnt many things about this Upanishad in a different way. Sir discussed about the view of Swami Chinmayananda ji, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, and himself. I shall subscribe the view of Professor Praharaj that the Upanishad teaching is meant for the common man. It is obvious. And Upanishadic parampara is also that a Shishya will go to jungle, will go to the ashram of the rishis. He will sit near the teacher, and the teacher will impart knowledge. So that Shishya is not a very wise person because that Shishya generally is a disciple, is a student. So Upanishadic teaching begins with a zero mind. Of course, in the time of a brahmacharya, preliminary discipline should be there with a student, but it starts with a shishya. So that is a common man, common mind, not a that is not the mind of wisdom. So it is true. And that man, that common man, has two relations. One is his relation with the world, and the second is his relation with Paramatma, Ishvara. So in philosophy, we have three basic concepts: man, world, and God. That common man should understand that what is myself, who is me, who am I, what is my relationship with this empirical world, and what is my relationship with the divine, the Isha. And in Isavasya Upanishad, three basic things have been taught to that common man. Number one, that is Tyaga. Number two, that is Karma. And number three, that is Bhoga. First verse speaks about Tyaga, that is wisdom. Second verse speaks about Karma. And third verse speaks about Bhoga. These three possibilities are there with a common man. Either a common man will choose the path of knowledge, or the path of karma, or the path of bhoga. If he will follow the path of bhoga, then what will be the result? He will go to the enter into the world of darkness, asura. So that is prohibited. That one should learn that the path of enjoyment, the path of bhoga, is not good. And that indication is there in the Upanishad in the third verse. And in the first verse, wisdom is given the priority, that we should know the relationship between myself with the world and also with the Isha. Because in the second line, the importance is given to that common man. Then Atektana Banjita, this is an instruction to that common man. So here the individual is also involved. The first line is about creator and creation, but in the second line, the ethical instruction is given to that common man. That what should you do? If you understand that Isavasam Idam is Sarvam, God is all pervaded. If you understand this metaphysics, then what should be your attitude towards your life, towards this empirical world? You should enjoy everything with a sense of detachment. And very beautifully, Upanishadic teachings give importance to the dialectical understanding. Here in Upanishad, there are three types of dialectics. Sir said that, but I am saying this in a different language only. But the message is same. Metaphysical dialectics, that is manifestation and unmanifest. That one should understand what is the unmanifest, and at the same time, one should understand the glory, the mystery of manifestation. That means this empirical world and its creator both should be understood by that common man. Vyakta and avyakta. Therefore, he said, Tat ejati, tat na ejati. These are the metaphysical dialectics which are discussed in Upanishad. Ethical, epistemological dialectics, Vidya and Avidya. One should understand how Avidya is better than false knowledge, discursive knowledge. Avidya is better than Aparavidya. That means Paravidya is the knowledge par excellence. But if one is not able to have that Paravidya, because it is not so easy, it will take time. After long spiritual sadhana, one will attain that Paravidya. But better, one should not be misguided by Aparavidya. Therefore, there is a saying, better you don't guide anybody, better you don't misguide anybody. Rather, you don't guide. If you are guiding, you guide in the proper way. Otherwise, you don't misguide. Misguidance is not accepted. So, avidya is bad. So, this is the epistemological dialectics. And the ethical dialectics is both attachment and detachment are discussed. That attachment is not bad, enjoyment is not bad, living in this world is not bad, karma is also not bad, because one cannot live in this empirical world without discharging his duties. So karma is a must. One should be a karma yogi. One should enjoy everything, but with a sense of a vairagya, detachment. So one should know both attachment and detachment. So there are these three dialectics are there discussed very beautifully in this very small Upanishad, and Sar discussed all these points. What Sar gave importance to the point that is, it is made for the common man, it is very well accepted, and it is meant for peaceful living. That the individual should live peacefully and the society should be very disciplined, and one should be groomed with some basic ethical disciplines, that one should not have moho, one should not have lobho, one should not have possessiveness, one should overcome ignorance, so that one can have self transformation in life. Swami Chinmayananda, the entire Bhagavad, the interpretation of the entire Bhagavad Gita is rooted in this one single word, that is self-transformation. Education is self-transformation. Day by day, we should have our better version. So that common man should become a superman. That common man should become a man of wisdom. Arjuna was a common man. Common man means he was confused in the battlefield. He was not sure what to do, what not to do. Visada Yoga. But in Mukhya Sannyasa Yoga, Arjuna is not a common man. Arjuna was well counseled, well trained. He was ready for fighting with proper knowledge of jnana, karma, and bhakti. So this is self-transformation. That is, this is the empty mind should become the full mind, purna bhaktitva, purna jnana. He should do niskama karma. He should have nirguna bhakti. This is the development. So Isha Upanishad may be a very small Upanishad with only 18 verses. And I shall totally agree that those who say that it is simply the collection of poetic expressions, people give this type of comment to those who do not understand this. Every verse has its meaning, every word has its meaning, may be interpreted differently, that does not matter. But we should go with our own reflection, own understanding. We should study that again and again, and we should think, rethink, and enjoy the teachings of Isha Upanishad. Thank you, sir. We are really grateful. We all remember the interpretations that you said about Swami Chinmayanandaji, Sarvapalli Radhakrishna, and yourself. As you are our teacher, generally we have an inclination towards your teaching, so that we understood in a better way what you said. It was very simple, lucid, and presentation was very nice, very genuine, very genuine. It was very clear. Now I shall request Kailash Chandra sir. Sir, please have your observation, or if you have any question, so you should ask, so that we shall learn more in the way of interpretation, in the way of interaction. Thank you, sir. Over to Kailash Chandra Das, sir.
Thank you, Pramod Babu. I was listening. Really, I was very spellbound to listen, Professor Praharaj. And I know that he was deeply involved in Upanishads, and he has written books twice. It was edited. And Upanishad, actually, as he said very nicely, that we are not acquainted with Upanishads at all, neither in our college hours, yes, or in teaching also. So we are acquainted with Upanishads, and our interest was maybe mainly due to a curiosity, not to seek actually knowledge of any kind, as Professor Praharaj said. But soon we could understand there is a profound philosophy in Upanishads. And one thing that Professor Praharaj said is that it is just a mere poetry, and he is not liking this thing. I don't think that being a poetry also ceases its importance. Look, all great philosophies of the world, while the language becomes dense and you cannot understand, it can be expressed in a piece of literature. So that does not diminish the value of Upanishads, even if it is told in a poetic way. Number one. Number two, I am immensely happy to note that Professor Praharaj has done very nice research. He has taken so many interpretations, and any writer of any philosophy or any book or any text will be very proud if there are so many interpretations of the text he has written. Perhaps there is no better compliment for a writer or an author of any text, whose text is subject to so many interpretations. Even the author will smile when there is a bad interpretation or there is a bizarre interpretation also. So that way Upanishad stands very tall, and the profundity of Upanishads, Professor Praharaj very rightly said. Really, I don't find where to ask a question to him that he has misled us. He has very properly, in the right context, he has evaluated Upanishads to my mind. But I will simply, my very simple understanding of Upanishads will be like this. They are talking about Vidya and Avidya distinction. That is very interesting to me in the sense that if a philosophical message, basically the metaphysical foundation is given to ethics, and from that perspective somebody is arguing about what a human being's life should be all about. That means when we are talking about what is the ideal life, which Professor Praharaj has very much highlighted, that is, we are talking much about what is the philosophy of a morally good life. That is a very, very crux of the most philosophical problems and ethical problems all over the world. And the writers of Upanishads have harped into this question that what exactly is a philosophy of good life, morally good life. This is very important, which Upanishads have taught and tried to harp upon this point. And to do that, what they have said is, as everybody has given a lot of importance to the very first verse of the Upanishad, I think many interpretations can be possible. And one of the most interpretation I like very much is this, that he is talking about the undertone is the basis is the metaphysical, spiritual wisdom. But at the same time, the ethical message is very clear and profound that it says about human greed. You cannot be happy if you are very greedy. That applies to the modern applied ethics of environmentalism. It's very relevant today also when human greed, and Mahatma Gandhi's one line is that the earth has enough for the need of everybody, but it is not adequate for the greed of a single man. So, one important thing that also is very nicely told is that, which I think later on, maybe most of the Western philosophers were influenced by this idea, that when Upanishads are declaring that the unity of everything, Professor Praharaj has also highlighted this point very nicely. I am very happy to note that the whole unity says that you and the other are not different. And the unity of humanity says that I am thou, or what he said that Soham Asmi. He has exactly said the word Soham Asmi, or even the knowledge that Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi, all these things are having some meaning, ethical profound implications, that I cannot treat somebody as the other, so that I can understand his pain and his suffering as my own, if I think, if I can know that he is me, I am you, so I can better feel your pain. That is the basis of such a thing, that when a man is really enlightened in the sense of getting liberation or freedom or moksha, you can say, and it is not otherworldly in the sense that what is talking about, not that you are going to heaven to meet some supreme being and mingle with him. It is simply the knowledge that you are he and everybody is the thee. So when you are saying everybody is thee, that really unites everything, and you can have a better world where a peaceful, not only peaceful living, enlightened living is possible. And Schopenhauer would say, Schopenhauer had actually, perhaps has read it. His fundamental ethics is, Arthur Schopenhauer says that sympathy is the foundation of all ethics. And sympathy you can have, human kindness you can have, provided you find we are one all, there is no difference. That is what Sarvam Idham Khalu Brahmam That is the significance for me. Particularly, I'm very much convinced that this interpretation perhaps is the interpretation which will lead all of us to have a better world, a better society, and that is the central message of Isha Upanishad also. We can say Atmajnana. Atmajnana is also mukhya in the sense that I know who am I. Who am I means I know that I am the Brahman. That is Atmajnana. To me, this is Atmajnana, and that means you are enlightened. Your enlightenment is liberation. This message is somehow or other reaching to that. And even if the interpretations of others are there, but most of the interpretation you can make a correlation. And Professor Praharaj has very nicely brought out this. I'm so much thankful to him that even when we are talking about the Ishwar, we are talking about Adam Smith's words that when we are confused, we are referring to a silent, neutral spectator. A neutral spectator, like Arjun is asking Sri Krishna, that you tell me, what should I do? I am confused. When we are in a moral dilemma, when you don't know what to do, then Adam Smith will say you refer to a neutral spectator. He can give you judgment. So we can ask our inner voice here. I think Ishwar is something that is my inner voice. Sometimes if I ask to my inner voice, it can give me right instructions most of the time, and I can be guided by my inner voice. Even those who are atheists, those who don't even accept the existence of a God, can derive a lot of things from this Upanishadic teaching, that this is my inner voice which can guide me. It is another person to whom I can appeal for my guidance to what to do in this kind. And here the message is the social message. The message is ethical message. The ethical message is put in a form of metaphysical and spiritual wisdom of Upanishads. So that has to be distinguished, but it cannot be separated. In that way, Professor Praharaj has very beautiful put these ideas. I don't know if I missed anything, but I was with rapt attention listening to him. I am very much happy and thankful to Professor Praharaj for enlightening all of us, his own ideas, and very originally he has dealt with this. And this, I think, it is a very good discussion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kailash sir. You made a very beautiful observation. You spoke about the nature of a poetry, and sir will respond to that. Actually, sir did not mean. Sir
No, no,
said that. Yes, sir.
let
You
me
please
speak
respond.
two, three sentences. He has correctly understood my reference regarding the poetry, that Westerners have criticized Upanishads to be mere poetry, but I have said that it is not mere poetry, it has messages through in the form of poems, and probably he has got the point. One thing I will just say, he has referred to Schopenhauer. He has said that he might have read Upanishad, but he not might have. Schopenhauer was reading Upanishad every day. He has mentioned in his biography that he was reading Upanishad. Upanishad is the uh, translation of Upanishad in his language. So every day he was reading one passage of Upanishad before sleep. So he was so much interested with the uh, messages of Upanishad, Schopenhauer. This is to add with Dr. Das. Mm, okay.
Now,
Thank
Regarding
you, sir.
sir.
Thank you.
one more little more point regarding Ishopanishadic view of Vidya and Vidya, I will say that we we may uh, proceed in the wrong track if we put it in the light of other Upanishads like Paravidya and Aparavidya concept. Upanishad has its own way of uh, thinking or interpreting the things. So here, Vidya and Avidya are having some special understanding because they have said that Avidya is ignorance, but Vidya is also higher ignorance. So there is something different from the bare meaning of it. Anyway, uh, there will be differences of opinions about it, but my submission is we have to understand it according as the spirit of the Upanishad. Okay, thank you.
Now I shall request Professor Radhanath Behera. He belongs to mathematics department, but he has keen interest in philosophy. Sir, do you have any questions, sir? Radhanath sir. Radhanath sir, are you hearing to me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. Yes, you please ask your question if you have any.
Now, uh, excuse me. So, Dr. Das, thank you for giving me an opportunity to listen to brilliant speakers like Professor Praharaj, Professor Kailas, and so on. Uh, Upanishad, as Professor Praharaj said, regarding the 18 verses and their interpretation through Adi Shankaracharya, Dr. Radhakrishnan, and Swami Chinmayananda of Divine Life Society. Each man has his own view about some source of knowledge. Ishopanishad is full of that. Dr. Radhakrishnan, in a small book called Kalki, gave a brilliant analysis of avidya, vidya and avidya, which Professor uh, Praharaj was hinting at. Avidya is not ignorance, it is spiritual blindness. Therefore, unless you raise yourself to a different stature through acquisition of knowledge, and that is acquired through deep contemplation, you may not be able to unite yourself with Paramatman. So, after all, what is philosophy? What is religion? Religion, particularly, is reaching Godhead, not without, it is also within. So, transcendence and immanence, these are the two key words for a seeker of truth, because God is both transcendent and immanent as well. Dr. Radhakrishnan says he is immanent because he is closer to us than the very artery of our body. You may think he is somewhere in the distant clouds, transcending the whole world. That may be possible because Ishopanishad is all about the all pervasive existence of God. Now, I gave you two concrete examples. It is not poetry, as some Westerners think about. Max Muller, Schopenhauer, Dawson, all these Western philosophers were full of praise for our Indian Upanishad, particularly about Schopenhauer. It is said, he said Upanishads have been solace of my life. They will also be the solace after my death.
Yes.
What a brilliant concept of Upanishad he has interpreted. Why we call it is mere poetry? Because we float on the surface, never bothering to go into the deep meaning of any interpretation of grand books on creation of the world, man's duty in it, and his responsibility to the entire community of human beings. So all these things may be thought to be practical. They may be thought to be practical. They may be shallow in ideas, but it depends on how we look at it. A temple seen through different angles, as Swami Vivekananda once said. They all appear different, but temple is the same. So interpretations may vary, but truth is indispensable, and truth is all fair and unique. Now, Swami Vivekananda gave a beautiful example of this interpretation of Tena Tatyena Vanjitha, enjoy in renunciation. He went to America. He met the rich man of the day, the industrialist Rockefeller. Now, he asked Rockefeller that whatever you have possessed is others' money. You are only a trustee, like Jesus Christ or Mahatma Gandhi. He gave this interpretation. You are only a trustee. Give it to the poor. Christ said, how can I be happy, my Lord? The answer was, everything you have, give it to the poor. Follow me. Now, Rockefeller said, because I have, through my intelligence, through my hard work, accumulated wealth, why should I part with it, give it to the poor for nothing? Swamiji said, it is the way of enjoying your life, not accumulation of wealth, but by parting with it. Tena tektena punjita, enjoy in renunciation. He was not happy. After a few days, he came back to Swami Vivekananda and said, Swamiji, I understand what you said. I started giving a part of my accumulated wealth to the needy. So you should thank me. Swami Vivekananda was intelligent enough and said, why? I have given you the concept of donation, charity, humility for nothing. Rather, you should thank me that I have given you a new lease of life. That is the life of charity. That is the life of parting with the selfish desire, and thereby you are reaching closer to the God. But the hard hearted Rockefeller did not appreciate it. Anyway, that is one story. The other one is if it is all poetry, let us listen to a great poet, T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot, in the book, the famous book Wasteland, quoted Upanishads, particularly from Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. When the gods and the asuras, demons, went to the creator, Prajapati, Father, how can we be happy? Oh, all the time I have been teaching you, you have not followed it. Da, three da. Then they came with their own interpretation. And they said, okay, da, datta, damatya, dayadvam. Datta, damatya, dayadvam. Now, da, datta, dana, because if you are miserly in nature, give it to others. Damatya, because you don't have control over your passion, your sensual enjoyment, control it, you will be happy. Dayadvam, have compassion for the afflicted, for the poor, for the miserable. These are the three interpretations. But gods thought it is different. Asuras thought that is a different. Human beings thought it is also different. But the actual interpretation from the Upanishad T.S. Eliot quoted, and he became a worldwide uh, acclaimed poet of poets. So why do you say it is only poetry? Look at their Western poet, a Nobel Prize winner, T.S. Eliot, who philosophized ideas of Upanishad and of many other scriptures. He was brought up in the image of Ezra Pound. Professor Bertrand Russell helped him on many ways, clarifying the philosophy of life. So profundity comes from going deep into any affair and not to sail on the surface of it. I am very happy that a great interpretation of Upanishad is brought about by Professor Praharaj. Uh, Sir, I have been a student of mathematics and science. Therefore, my interest in Professor Radhakrishna and Swami Vivekananda uh, actually drove me into reading the past, particularly of the books on philosophy and religion. Particularly, my fascination for Dr. Radhakrishnan goes back to my student days also. With ideas of science, I used to move parallel with his philosophical thoughts, particularly his 10 principal Upanishads. Uh, Thank you very much. Had I known before, I could have prepared myself to take a better uh, participation in this enlightened gathering. But then I think you may pardon me because I become a member of a different family. However, intruding into philosophical realm through Professor Pramod Das. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Behra. You belong to the Department of Mathematics, but you have very good idea about Upanishadic teachings. I know that you are a fan of Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. Para sir, will you respond?
Sure, sure.
Yes, sir.
So Mr. Behra has gone beyond my thought regarding Radhakrishnan and nicely presented Radhakrishnan's view with a comparison with Vivekanand. I was really happy the man of mathematics uh, had grasped the philosophy such a nice manner. He has not asked any question, so I have nothing to clarify. But I have all appreciation for his understanding that he has understood the philosophy behind the Upanishad and Indian ancient treasure uh, can be treated as a good understanding about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Praharaj. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for having mutual agreement. That should be. Anyway, we have with us Anupama, Ashok Khattai, Deepak sir, Renubala Sundarai, and others. Pragya is also with us. If you have any question, please ask because this is an opportunity. You can learn many things. Sir is our teacher, and you are Pragya is my student. Is present here. Pragya, will you ask any question? Dr. Renubala Sundarai, Deepak sir, Anupama, will you ask any question? Yes, Deepak sir, please.
Yes, sir. Uh, yes, sir. Actually, I'm just founding a book that is Upanishad in front of me, inside the mobile. So I do not dare to ask question because so many diggers are there. But still, there is a question, and the question is related to seven waves. When Praharaj sir was telling about the concept that is seven waves, he has pointed out that the path of action is not contradictory to the path of knowledge. Okay, so just sir, just please clarify me. I could not get it in my mind that the statement that is path of action is not contradictory to the path of knowledge. If the path of action is not contradictory, if it is contradictory, then what would be the case? And if it is not contradictory, how it lead to the knowledge? This is the question.
It is a night question raised by Mr. Deepak that the path of action is not contrary to the path of knowledge. That is the view of Swami Chinmayananda in respect of the second verse of the Upanishad. Second verse of the Upanishad says that kurban ivaha karmani jijivisat satani samaha, etc. The verse says that normally we desire to live for 100 years or many more years by doing day to day work. But finally, this day to day work doesn't help in achieving the goal of the life. Then, if this is our knowledge, what shall we do? Should you remain silent or should you follow inaction? That is not the spirit of the verse. The spirit of the verse is that we must follow the right type of action. And this verse is the sequence of the first verse where the, there is hint for the right type of action, which is the cream of the Upanishad. That is, you must enjoy through renunciation. So the right type of action is renunciation. That means you try to develop the attitude of non-attachment with your belongings. And if you follow this type of action, it will never be a hindrance to knowledge. That action will be hindrance to the knowledge if you are attached with the action. If I do this, I will get this. If I do this, it will be the result. So this way of action is not compatible with achieving knowledge. Knowledge and wisdom, we consider that knowledge is lower stage and wisdom is higher stage. If self interest or selfish actions are not compatible with knowledge, then what to talk of wisdom? So that is how Chinmayananda has pointed out that path of action he has here meant really, he meant, I am saying that the path of action is the path of meditation. He meant, of course, that is not incorrect. That if you follow the path of meditation, it is not hindrance for the knowledge. We can get achieve knowledge, but I want to understand it still in a lucid manner that the action which is not directed in my own interest, it is in the interest of the society, in the interest of the public, definitely it is in the right direction of arriving at the knowledge. This is what is the spirit of the Upanishad. Have you got the point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Any other question? Anupama, will you ask any question?
May I intervene for a moment,
Yes,
Professor
yes, yes,
Das?
sir.
Can I?
Yes,
No,
yes, ma'am.
this whole concept of Gita is detached action, where the
Detached
result
action,
will not
yes.
com- engross you all your life. Do it with a with a spirit of detachment, with a spirit of dispassion, without bothering for the result thereof. Niskam karma. If that is achieved, That is the highest knowledge. There is no contradiction. Sri Aurobindo, of course, uh, was of different opinion. Action is uncalled for at every stage because he said, as long as you are within the confines of terrestrial world, action may be necessary, but as you rise higher towards that supermind, towards that goal of reforming yourself or transforming yourself, action is uncalled for. It's not required. But Swami Vivekananda said in interpretation of Gita that Lord Krishna himself says, look at me. Although I am the Lord of all the universe, I am engaged in work, however trivial it may look. Because if I do not work, he says in his uh, message of in the Gita, people follow great men. And if the great men are full of inertness and other weaknesses of life, then what about the common man? They are misled. Therefore, go on doing work. That work, doing your work is your right and not to expect the fruit thereof. Swami Vivekananda said only one sloka is highly appreciated in the whole of Gita. Be fearless, adopt manliness, do your work, and that is without interpretation. Klavyam masma gama pata naitak toyu prapadyate Shudra Hudrayam Durbalya Yaktotischa Param Tapa. Hey Param Tapa, a slayer of enemies. Do not exhibit your unmanliness. You are born Kshatriya, a warrior. You have come to perpetuate righteousness. So that should be your interpretation. Swami Vivekananda was a born warrior. He would not, his master Ramakrishna Paramahansa said, he is an unsheathed sword without any cover. He will attack anyone with some mispenetration of great ideas. So that is the feeling that knowledge and action will not contradict each other. But if you act with knowledge and without any fruit thereof, that is the highest goal of every human life. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Also, in Upanishad, there is a verse. I don't remember the total verse. Sir will say, "No karme lipyate nare." This is the part of the one verse. No karme lipyate nare. Nare means the individual who is working. He will do the karma, but he will not be involved in karma. The same thing is also said in the Gita. Because the Gita is the outcome of the Upanishad. The Gita is not different from Upanishad. That there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita that not for a single moment you can remain without doing a work. Even your decision not doing an action is also an action. So every moment you have to do something. Work is a must. But work is not the goal of your life. Therefore, you should do your action with kausala. Yoga karmesu kausalam. What is that kausala? That skill is you have to follow the path of niskam karma, as Sir said, detached
Like
action,
you see,
and
just a
the
minute, just a minute. In my talk, I have never referred to any other text excepting Ishopanishad because my pinpoint this talk was only on Ishopanishad, which is very much prior to Gita and other things. So I have only mentioned the view of Upanishad, not of any other literature. So later on, the view of Upanishad has been very nicely presented in other. Gita is no doubt elaboration of Upanishad. Many scholars have said this. I don't disagree to it. We can better understand with the knowledge of the Gita the view of Upanishad, but we have to understand Upanishad as it is. That is my submission. Thank you.
Understand Upanishad as it is. Deepak sir, would you speak anything? You are saying something, but otherwise we shall close the session. Okay.
No, sir. Clear.
Okay,
Everything
okay.
is clear, transparent.
Okay. Thank you. So, with this, we shall come to the conclusion, come to the end of this session. We are really grateful that Professor Durga Madhab Praharaj sir, our revered teacher, delivered his talk on the message of his Upanishad in a very beautiful manner, in a very clear manner, that we learnt many things from him. And we are really grateful to sir for his benign presence and his beautiful presentation. And
Thank
the
you,
interact,
Pramod.
sir, and
Enough of okay.
and the interactive session was also very wonderful. People asked many questions from their own perspectives, of course, including Bhagavad Gita and
No,
other
no.
scriptures.
The analysis was very good.
Yes, by that
They have
way we
po-
shall.
uh,
Yes, sir, yes,
they have pointed out the links with the different
yes,
literatures.
yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
uh, I, I, I I was enjoying all those, but
I was
my
also.
point was that I was only answering from Ishopanishad's
Yes,
point
sir,
of
sir,
view
sir, sir.
because it
That
was
should
my talk.
that should be the spirit of the speaker. And very nicely, Professor Behera, I was surprised how he spoke about T.S. Eliot referring to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in his poem.
Uh, Three
Very
dance.
many things we learn in the interactive session. And Deepak sir asked a very beautiful question regarding karma and jnana. They are actually not contradictory to each other. They complement each other. They are complementary. Anyway, and
Uh,
Kailash sir, we shall end
uh,
here, sir.
one
Sir, we shall
one
end.
minute,
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Das. 1 minute.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Uh, I, regarding Professor Praraj's interpretation, it was not our intention to belittle his impact of
no,
his
no, no,
Upanishad,
no, no,
but
no, no,
but
no.
then but then to establish a sort of ramification, how
Yes,
it
yes, yes.
grew into a banyan tree extending to say up to Gita and other Upanishads also. So it is a you have touched the kernel of our thought, and we are only
Yes, yes. We
depending
agree,
on
sir. We
the
agree.
branches like Gita and so on. Thank you.
Yes, we agree, sir. And and you perhaps you do not know that Professor Pavaraj is well versed in Bhagavad Gita. He has written many articles in Bhagavad Gita and is a very good scholar in Bhagavad Gita. But he is saying
And
that
also a
when
book for the students.
yes, and he is saying only one thing, and that should be as a scholar, as a research scholar, even when we are writing an article or we are teaching in the classroom, that if we are talking about Isha Upanishad, so we should focus on that. That is his motto, and that because the thoughts would be pinpointed. Our that is meditation, as Swami Chinmayananda said. Our work should be meditative. Our knowing process should be meditative. That means it should be pinpointed, as Arjuna was setting the arrow. that should be the concentration of a student and a teacher or a speaker. That is how we can give justice to a topic. But at the same time, he is also appreciating the interactive process, and the whole thing is the webinar or the seminar. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Radhanath sir, for your message from different angles, from Radhakrishnan, from T.S. Eliot, from Schopenhauer, from many angles you placed your view. And I forgot Dr. Kailash Chandra Das sir. He started the discussion with a very beautiful manner, and he had noted like a student when Professor Praharaj was speaking. That is the true spirit of a listener, and that is the meaning of Upanishad also. That whenever we are listening, we should be very much sincere. We should be very much committed. We should note that, because every occasion is an occasion of learning. Thank you all. Thank you, Deepak sir, and thank you all present here. With this, the session
Thank
is
you, my
declared closed.
listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pramod Babu, for this good
Not,
opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. Thank
Now, we thank Professor Praharaj because he
you.
has produced a great scholar like Pramod Das, the
So many, so
keystone of this
many.
discussion.
Number is so many, sir. So many. So many. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.